Blessings, blessings. We're taking inserts from Chosen People, audio clips from the Prayer.com series with Yael Eckstein. Blessings, blessings.
קורא ישמור את נפשך, אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם.
Dreams, those ethereal whispers of the night, drift in and out of Joseph's story. It was a dream that first led him into the abyss, the vision of sheaves and stars that stirred the envy of his brothers, casting him into the depths of betrayal and slavery. In the shadowy corridors of an Egyptian prison, it seems those dreams had turned to dust. But then, the dreams that once seemed like the cruel catalyst of Joseph's downfall are revealed to actually be the blueprint for his ascent to royalty. The very gift of interpreting dreams that once brought Joseph to the lowest places is exactly what helped him to rise. But this time, the dreams weren't Joseph's own, like they were when he told his brothers. No, it was Joseph interpreting the dreams of others, the cupbearer, the baker, and ultimately Pharaoh himself. In interpreting the dreams of others, Joseph begins to see the arc of his own life more clearly. The hand of God moving behind the scenes, orchestrating events for a purpose beyond his understanding. And in Joseph's journey, we see the fulfillment of God's covenant with our forefathers, a promise that no pit or prison can thwart. We are reminded that our struggles are not the end, but the beginning of God's greater narrative. My father, Rabbi Yael Eckstein, was an extraordinary man, a man whose heart reached out to hundreds of thousands. As his daughter, I saw up close the depth of his compassion. Whenever we passed a homeless person on the street, he would stop. He would pause even as the world hurried by, offering not just money, but his ear. He sought to know the person's name, this person's story, this person's pain. And in those moments, time after time again, I witnessed transformation. Dejection turned to joy, and hearts were lifted by his genuine compassion. In today's episode of The Chosen People, we see the same spirit in Joseph's story. In that dark prison, Joseph noticed the sorrow of his fellow inmates. "Why do you look so sad today?" he would ask them. And then he listened. He wasn't so engulfed with his own pain and hardships that he didn't have space for anyone else. Rather, he used his hardships to be more empathetic towards the others who were suffering. He cared. He really cared. We often move through life preoccupied with our own troubles, deaf to the silent cries of those around us. But Joseph's story teaches us a profound truth to live by. No matter our own struggles, we must see and respond to the pain of others. Never underestimate the power of a simple question. How are you? What's your name? What have you been through? It can save a life. And as we learn from the story of Joseph, it can change the world. Let's talk a little bit about the man whose life Joseph saved, Pharaoh's imprisoned cupbearer. Joseph asked the cupbearer to please remember him to Pharaoh and help him get out of jail. But the very last verse of this chapter tells us that this didn't happen. This is what it reads, quote, "The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him," end quote. We've seen this in previous episodes, and we'll see it again. The Bible repeating itself for a reason. So why did the Bible repeat itself here? It says, he did not remember Joseph, he forgot him. The Bible doesn't include any extra word. So we have to ask, why is the Bible telling us this twice? If the cupbearer didn't remember Joseph, then of course he forgot him. Why does the Bible tell us the same thing twice? There's a beautiful teaching here from Jewish tradition that the Bible verse wishes to remind us that yes, the cupbearer forgot Joseph, but God remembered him. We all depend on other people, and sometimes they come through for us and sometimes they don't. But even when others forget us, God always remembers. God is not silent. He speaks in dreams, in whispers, in that still, small voice. And that's what all of us must remember. That everything in our lives, even our dreams, our aspirations, our hopes, it comes from God. Joseph was a very self-confident person, a gift that sometimes also proved to be a burden. But Joseph somehow tempered his self-confidence with his deep trust in God. So when the cupbearer and the baker asked him to interpret their dreams, Joseph answered immediately, quote, "Do not interpretations belong to God?" End quote. Joseph didn't claim the talent of dream interpretation as his own. Rather, he immediately mentioned God. He realized that his skill, his gift was directly from God. And also it showed that he was faithful, that God would inspire him to interpret the dreams correctly. He was saying, "Lord, I can't do this on my own. You interpret the dreams and give me the words." Isn't that a wonderful aspiration for all of us? On the one hand, to have confidence in ourselves, to believe we can do anything, that we can rise to greatness. But on the other hand, to always remember to turn to God for guidance. My Abba, my father, Rabbi Yael Eckstein of blessed memory, was an extraordinary man. He would find out what native language the homeless person spoke. My father learned a few words in every language, so he would be able to connect personally to the homeless people and the people in need. I watched as he would speak a few words in their language. He would give them a big smile. Sometimes he'd give them a hug. And in that instant, their dejection turned to joy, and their hearts were lifted by my father's genuine love and care and compassion. In today's episode of The Chosen People, that is the spirit that we see and we learn from in Joseph's story. In that dark prison, Joseph noticed the sorrow of his fellow inmates. He cared. He spoke to them. He offered to help in whatever way he could. And just like Joseph, we have to learn not to be silent, not to be deaf to those cries around us. We have to remember from Joseph, no matter how hard our struggles are, we still have to hold the space to see and respond to the pain of others.
About it, subscribe and get down with it. The Lord bless you and faithfully serve.